Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here in Owasco this afternoon. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge some special guests with us in the audience. Cuba County Legislative Chairman Keith Batman, Town of Owasco Supervisor Ed Wagner, Cuba County Sheriff David Gould, Owasco Lake Watershed Lake Association President Bob Brower, Cuba Community College President Brian Durant, Wells College President Jonathan Gibraltar, SUNY ESF President Quentin Wheeler. And I'd also like to take a minute to recognize my fellow partners in government, the many other elected officials joining us here today. We also have our great governor here today. Great to be with you again, Governor. After decades of neglect from Albany, upstate New York is finally enjoying the attention it deserves, and the resulting renaissance in our upstate communities can be seen across the board. The governor has fundamentally changed the trajectory of upstate New York, investing more than any governor in recent history and consistently following through on his promises, pushing for and delivering on projects that will help our towns and cities flourish. The incredible momentum we've witnessed in Central New York relies on continued transformative investments that will build on the progress we have achieved and make our communities stronger and more resilient. Water quality is one of the most pressing issues of our time, and Governor Cuomo has made it a focus of his tenure. He has made record investments and taken on a series of aggressive actions to protect our environment and ensure access to clean water for all New Yorkers, including launching a statewide water quality rapid response team. Today you will hear details of a project that is critical to ensuring the continued health of our residents and the vitality in our community. The governor's laser focus on preserving this state's precious natural resources and protecting the health of New Yorkers is the foundation of this game-changing project. With that, please join me in welcoming our 56th Governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Boy, oh boy, what a beautiful day to be here. It is really my pleasure. And let me begin by thanking the mayor very much for his hospitality. I've had the good fortune to work with the mayor on a number of issues, and the issue that we're going to be speaking about today, water quality, and he's done an extraordinary job. Let's give him a round of applause. Mayor Quill. To Cuyahoga County Legislative Chairman Keith Batman, it's always a pleasure to be with Keith. He comes to Albany quite often to represent the county, and he does a great job. Keith, good to be with you. Supervisor Wagner, pleasure to be with you. Thank you for taking the time. I also have two state commissioners with me who have been very involved in the issue we're talking about today, clean water, and they've done an extraordinary job, which they should, because I pay them a lot of money, and they should be doing a great job. We have the DEC Commissioner, Basil Sagos. Basil, why don't you stand up and let them thank you. And the Department of Health Commissioner, Dr. Zucker. Doctor, good to be with you. Well, as you heard from the mayor, we finished the state budget. They call it a budget, but it's actually more than a budget. It's sort of an operating plan for the entire state for the year. This one was the most difficult one that we've done. It was the most difficult one to birth, but when we birthed it, it was a beautiful baby. It's a good budget. And it continues the main trajectory that we've been focusing on for the state. First, what the budget does is it reins in spending. When you talk about upstate New York and the problems we've had in upstate New York, there's no doubt that part of it had nothing to do with anything we did in upstate New York. Part of it was just a function of the transition of the economy. We were a manufacturing economy at one time, and that's what we did in upstate New York. And then we went out of the manufacturing business. It moved overseas. It moved to different parts of the country. And we had a void. Now, that we had nothing to do with. Some things that government did actually aggravated the situation. And one of them was we raised taxes. And we raised taxes, and we raised taxes, and we raised taxes. And people are smart, and businesses are smart. And you keep raising taxes, and there's a point where they're going to pick up and they're going to move. And that's what they did to us. We have some of the highest taxes in the country in New York. And that causes people who are now more mobile than ever before, and businesses are more mobile than ever before, they left. What did we have to do? We had to reverse that trend. And it's hard. You know, it's easy to spend. It's hard to stop spending, right? It's a simple formula. Spend less money, government, and you can tax less. Simple formula. Take in fewer calories, and you will lose weight. Simple formula. I can't master it, but I get the formula. I just have trouble in the implementation. And that's where we had trouble with government, in the implementation. State taxes are about 1/3 of the taxes that people pay. About 2/3 are the local property taxes. That's why I'm a constant jihad to reduce local property taxes and get local governments to be more efficient and more effective. And they're working very hard. But the property taxes in New York are a crusher. We have the highest property taxes in the United States of America. Can you believe that? So property taxes are a problem, and we're working on that, but I wanted to do what we could on the state taxes. So to reduce the state taxes, you have to reduce the spending level. We have reduced the state spending level to the lowest level in history. Listen to that. Reduced the state spending level to the lowest level in history. Well, how can you do that, Cuomo? You're a Democrat. You Democrats like to spend money. Oh, don't stereotype like that. When you look over the modern history of the state of New York, Governor Nelson Rockefeller, Republican, spending went up year to year at about 11%. Governor Hugh Carey, spending went up year to year about 8%. My father, 12 years, spending went up about high 6%. George Pataki, 12 years, spending went up about 5-6%. Our spending level, every year I've been governor, went up year to year 2%. 2%. Lowest level. Lowest increase since they've been keeping numbers. You spend less, then you can cut taxes. And we have cut taxes every year. We've cut taxes again for the middle class, up to $300,000. This year we'll pay the lowest income tax rate in 70 years. So we're very proud about that. And the budget does a lot of other good work besides just the spending. College affordability, it has criminal justice reforms, so a lot of good work. But the topic we're here to talk about today is clean water, because it is a problem statewide. It's a problem right here, as you know, and it's a problem, I'm afraid, that's only going to get worse if we don't address it. It's not going to get better on its own. And it is something that this nation, frankly, has yet to confront. You look at the lake today, it is just magnificent. I mean, the Finger Lakes are really just a God-given gift, right? It's one of the things that makes this state the best state in the United States of America. It's just a beautiful natural asset that we have. It's one of the great attractions that this state has. It's also a great economic generator. Finger Lakes are great tourist attractions. Tourism is big money for the state of New York. It's one of the great economic generators we've had in upstate New York. We've been promoting upstate New York from a tourism point of view very aggressively. We have what's called the I Love New York campaign. You probably have seen the ads. But the I Love New York ads run internationally. And our strategy is to get people to come see upstate New York. New York City gets about 50 million visitors a year. It's an international tourist destination. And our strategy has been to say to those 50 million who come to New York City, by the way, you really want to see New York, we're proud of New York City, it's a great urban environment, come north. And you really get to see New York. And we have great rural communities, et cetera. And it's been working. We spent $150 million in advertising, which is a lot of money. Tourism dollars went up $9 billion, with a B, $9 billion. Why? Because upstate New York is magnificent. And once you're exposed to it, once you see it, once you know what we have, you want to come and visit. And by the way, our return visits are even better. Because once they come and they see, they want to come back. And the Finger Lakes are part of that. So they're a great economic generator, great natural gift. We did a Bass Masters 2014. I was here for the Bass Masters tournament, nationally televised, right? So that's the upside. The downside is the quality of our water nationwide is in jeopardy. And it's only getting worse. It's not getting better. It's threatened by development. It's threatened, frankly, by the success of our economy. You're building more homes, developing more. We've done a lot on the agriculture industry to stimulate the agriculture industry in upstate New York that I'm very proud of. We make more Greek yogurt in New York than they make in Greece. How do you like that? So we've done a lot of things to stimulate the agriculture industry, dairy industry, and that's great, but that also generates issues. And many of the issues wind up in the water, literally. Also, we've been going back and forth with the federal EPA. Federal EPA only regulates a very small number of chemicals when they test water. And what's happening now is we're finding other chemicals in the water that we had not tested for before. Or we're finding chemicals that we had not set, the federal government had not set allowable levels. And now we're starting to question what are the allowable levels of those chemicals before they become dangerous for people. And this is now, as we speak, this is becoming a more and more and more serious issue. You put on top of that our existing water infrastructure is aging. And a lot of the pipes, a lot of the piping stations, a lot of the underground infrastructure is getting old and needs to be replaced. And it is very, very expensive. You put all of that together, and it's clear that water quality is a major issue for the state going forward. Now, you have seen a snapshot of it in Owasco. The blue-green algae bloom is just a perfect example. It can be toxic. We've been monitoring it. Department of Health and DEC have been here working with the local officials to make sure that the water that we drink, the water that our children drink, is safe. And knock wood, it has been, and they've done an extraordinary job in keeping it safe. And I want to applaud the local officials who've been working along with the state officials and have been very diligent and been on top of this situation and have kept us safe. So let's give them a round of applause. We have now a short-term and a long-term plan going forward. Short-term, we need to filter the water that's coming out of the lake. We need to make sure that the blue-green toxins do not get into the drinking water. To the extent there is any residue that gets into the drinking water, we have to make sure that it's filtered and that it's safely filtered. And to that end, they've done a lot of research and a lot of testing, and they have 2 state-of-the-art systems that are going to be installed and will then be monitored. The question then becomes one of funding, and this is an expensive proposition. We passed in this budget something that we call the Clean Water Infrastructure Improvement Act, which is $2.5 billion. And the $2.5 billion is obviously a lot of money. It's a significant expense, but as I mentioned, this is a statewide problem, and there is no cheap solution to this, and this is not the place where you want a cheap solution, because this goes to literally the health and the quality of the water that we're drinking. Much of what has been going in Owasco has been informing the discussion that we've had in Albany. I've been talking to the DEC Commissioner and the Commissioner of Health. Obviously, it's a situation that you've been concerned about and we've been concerned about. And it's one of the situations that has personally pushed me and driven me to this kind of investment in clean water. From that bill, which we will sign in about 3 minutes, we are going to invest in your water quality and your water supply. We're going to invest over $2 million today, $800,000 for a granular activated carbon treatment system for Owasco, $600,000 for an Auburn powdered activated carbon system, which they call a PAC treatment center. And DEC and DOH, Department of Environmental Conservation, Department of Health, are here on hand to approve both of those systems as systems that can keep the drinking water safe. And we're going to be funding the installation of those systems forthwith. And that's why we're here today. Thank you. Thank you. And then long term, we'll put in these systems. We will monitor these systems. We'll see how they do. If they work well, they'll become permanent systems. If they need to be adjusted, we'll make whatever adjustments we need to make. But you have my commitment, as well as the commitment of DEC and DOH, and the commitment of your local officials, that we are on top of it, and we're going to make sure the water is of a quality that we would give our children. This is a relatively short-term solution, because remember what we're doing. We're treating the water that's coming out of the lake, and we're treating the water that may be affected by the algae bloom. Long-term, the solution is make sure you don't have the algae blooms in the first place. And to do that, that is going to be the second prong of what we're working on together, which is reducing the runoffs into the lake. And that is more septic, that is more agricultural controls, that is more sustainable development, that is more geographic work to keep runoff from going into the lake. So we'll be working on both the short term and the long term together. Of all the issues we work on, some are very topical, and some are situations that we have to handle today. And then some are more profound and long-term, and this is one of those that are more profound and long-term. You get as old as I am, it sort of gets simple at the end of the day. What is your responsibility as a parent? What's your responsibility as a citizen? What's your responsibility as a human being who is given time on this earth? Your basic responsibility is to leave the place better than you found it, right? Every philosopher says that. Every philosopher says that. Every religion says that in its own way. Use your time on this planet to make this planet a better planet. When we're in elected office, we have the opportunity to work in government to leave this state a better state than we found it for our children. When it comes to the quality of the drinking water, the quality of the environment, that is so true and so palpable. And together, we're going to make sure that we leave this state better and cleaner than we found it. And when we hand it off to our children, we can hand it off with pride. The Native Americans had a proverb that said it so well. We don't inherit the land from our parents. We are borrowing it from our children, and we're going to give it to our children better than we found it. Thank you for being here today. I'm going to sign the bill. Smiling, gentlemen? The $2 million smile? Congratulations, the bill is signed.